Multi-calendar booking tends to be like one of the highest requested AI features, and it's a very difficult thing to pull off, especially in a standardized way because of how dynamic it needs to be, especially on the decision making of the AI. And while we're working on this, and I'm knee deep in this update that we're putting out, and also making sure everyone's getting the help they need and deserve, I figured it would be easy to show you how to do it today in case your clients need this, if this is a deal breaker, whatever. It's not necessarily hard to do. It may be a little technical though. All right, but I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to try to do it in less than 20 minutes. Okay? Try to go over everything so that you can build this for your clients. I'll run down the concepts and everything for you. So I'm going to switch over to my screen here. All right. And let's go over what we'll need and some concepts associated with this. And again, we're making this a native feature. We're doing our best. Like I said, knee deep in this update. But you only need a couple things here, right? So what you'll need is the assistant to do the booking, right? The calendars you want to book to, the GoHighLevel calendars, I'm going to show you how to find what you need in those, all right? A platform like N8N, Make, Buildship to host the calendar, it needs to be able to like have an API, so it needs to be able to return data. I would say a high-level workflow, but they're like webhooks. You can only send data to them, you can't get it back. And so we'll use something like N8N, Make, Buildship. I'm going to be using Buildship because it's free and it's good, but you can use whatever platform you're most comfortable with. All the concepts are the same, all right? Conceptually, what we have to do here is we have to have the AI make a decision of what calendar to book to, right? And we can do that with a little bit of prompting and some custom tool descriptions. And it has to know when it makes the decision on where to book to, how to get the availability for that calendar, and then how to actually book that time specifically to the calendar. All right. That may seem a lot. It really ultimately comes down to two custom tools per calendars, get times and book, right? And then just a little bit of prompting. I'll show you what prompting to use for it to make the decision on what calendar to use. So that's where we're at conceptually, right? So let's go in and build this. I'm going to build it from scratch with you. All right, so I have a couple tabs open here. So I have my platform where I'm going to host the calendars, the workflow type thing, right? An API creation tool. I have my GoHighLevel calendars on here. And then I have my assistant up on here. This is just a blank assistant. You can use the one you currently have, or you can just create one real quick. And we'll go through it. I'm going to set up really basic. So I'm going to go in here. And basically the decision we need to make here is what I'll probably use for this one is this mortgage calendar and this refinancing calendar. Those are the two that I'm going to use for this idea. And at the end of this, I'll take all the screenshots and I'll even post the snapshots to the Buildship workflow if you prefer that platform. So I have these two calendars that I need to make a decision to book to, right? A mortgage or a refinance calendar. So keeping with just a very simple framework here is I'm going to create a task for the AI to do, right? I'm going to say the first thing you need to do is ask the user if they are looking for a mortgage or to refinance their current home. And then after this, I would go into some sort of qualifying questions like to if refinance, et cetera, right? If refinance, what do you owe on it? What's your credit score, et cetera, right? I'll let you do all that. But I will do kind of a similar framework for the booking, right? And so what we need to do now is we need to go into our GoHighLevel calendars, right? And first we need to check for availability. So like the biggest thing with GoHighLevel calendars is a lot of people will go to book to a calendar, right? And even just like our stuff and like it doesn't book, but then they go look at their calendar, their client's calendar, and there's no times available because like the Google integration has cut off for out of office or whatever. So a good way to check this really quick is to share and then get this permanent link. We're going to do this for both of the calendars that we're going to book to. I'm going to show you why here in a second. So that's my refinance calendar. Here's my mortgage calendar. I'm getting the permanent link here. Right? So now I have these little GoHighLevel booking links, like a little Calendly link, right? For both of these calendars. I see there's availability, so I know I'm good to go. And what I need from these is this little ID right here. This is the specific calendar ID that allows GoHighLevel to know, where to pull times from, right? So this is the IDs. We need both of these. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I think we'll probably start here and we'll just say if the user is looking for refinance, check your availability using using the tool get availability refinance calendar. And discuss your availability with the user to book an appointment for. Something to the effect of that, right? And then book the appointment using the tool get availability. Sorry, all over the place today. Book appointment refinance calendar. All right. So that's kind of where our decision making comes from, right? So if they're looking for refinance, kind of going back to this doc here, has to know what calendar to book to, or to get the availability for that calendar, and it has to know where to book for that calendar. All right, and I'll give you some good custom tool descriptions to use here that'll help out with the decision making and make it more autonomous. Okay, so here you see I have some custom tool descriptions. So I'm kind of laying out like the cadence to the AI and the prompt here, right? Like I'm telling it like, here's what you asked to know. And then once you know, here's what you do, right? But in our tool, this is how you marry two tools, by the way. So if you need a tool that does something on the back half of another tool, you can reference tools are you can self-reference them, right? So in the idea of getting availability and then booking the appointment, right? I have on here, it says, this is telling the AI and the custom tool, we'll build this together, is use this tool to get your calendar availability for a user looking for a refinance. And use this function every time a user asks about your availability to get your most up-to-date availability for refinance appointments. Right? That's great because that tells it, when to use this, under what condition to use this. It's really good custom tool description that acts pretty autonomously for doing this specific thing, right? And then we have, for booking the appointment, it says use this tool to book appointments on the calendar with the selected appointment time from the get availability refinance calendar. So that's kind of mirroring this tool right here with this one, right? So it knows like to book an appointment for refinance specifically, it knows it needs to do this one first. So if you ever get in a scenario where someone is deep in the mortgage, but they're like, oh, let's discuss a refinance, and the availability's already been called, it knows before it does this, at least to some degree, that it needs to go here first to make sure it has the availability and then book the appointment, right? And you can change this out literally, like if we're doing med spa or something like that, you just change this to, body sculpting, body sculpting, body sculpting, right? You just change the verbiage to make it make sense, right? All right, and we're going to be using voice for this one specifically. So we have our good availability, great. And what I'm going to do is create one, make sure it works, and then we can create the second one. Best practice, right? Don't get stuck trying to triage 2 or 3 of these things. Do the first one right, and then worry about the rest. Let me do this. You probably can't see my whole screen here. There you go. All right, so I'm not going to use a calendar in this one. Like I'm using the calendar in a separate platform. That's kind of how this works, right? I'm going to add a custom tool. So I need 2 custom tools here. I need the ability to get the calendar times and then the ability to book the appointment. And so on this one, just kind of what I've named this one here is get availability. Having a Google Doc open and doing this also helps a ton. I have my description here. And then we'll get to this endpoint in a second. But this is not a required step, but I would suggest that you do it because it's going to help out a ton with your booking flow. A lot of times, and even I think our current one doesn't have this in there, but it's coming with the update, is sometimes it'll book an appointment, right, without pushing the information needed for the appointment, like their name, email, phone number, whatever, right? So what I like to do in these instances is when I'm getting the availability, I'm going to double up what I'm doing here just to be able to take their name. So let's say contact, let's just say name, make it real easy on ourselves, and then email. The user's name, full name, and then we'll say the user's verified email address. All right, so I have my get availability. Here's the description. You can just copy this one in. We don't have our endpoint yet. We'll worry about that in a second. But we're going to double up efforts here on name, user's full name, email, and email address. And if we're going to take this a step further, we can do this too. Or we can add update contact. I already have this one in here. This is on a past video. This is just going to HighLevel to update it. If you want to, I'll link that in the description. I'll take out the revenue thing. It doesn't really matter. But let's add this in there too, just so we can update their contact information. And so I'll have my get availability here, even though I'm just going to change it here in a second with that endpoint. And then I need the ability to book the appointment. Think of tools as like ability, right? Or like I guess a proper thing would just be like a tool in your tool belt. You can go do something with it, right? But think of in the AI world, when you're creating a tool, you're giving them access to an ability to do something. And so when I do a lot of these build outs, especially one-off build outs, I always think like, what do I need you to do? You know, what steps I need you to do it, and that's my tool. You know, that's your ability to do it. All right, and so we do need one thing here, right? So our get availability, we're just going to return the times for a specific time period, right? But once we get that, we need the time here, and I'll show you the format to use on this one. Okay, so I need the time. That first one, just name and email, is just being sent. So the AI conceptually knows that I need that, you know, to go for the appointment, right? So you really don't need anything, but I like to do that because it forces the AI to ask for that information if it doesn't already have it. And then on the booking, we actually do need to send data. We need to send the appointment, right, that we want. And the correct verbiage for a GoHighLevel endpoint on booking is the ISO standard time, ISO standard date and time with time zone offset for the appointment start time. That's a mouthful, but that's the format that we're looking for. All right, so I've copied that in here. Don't have our endpoint yet. These are copied over from the doc. And this one's good to go right now. Okay, so we have our steps in there conceptually, right? We've given the AI a decision-making like protocol, I guess you can call it, in the task. You know, ask them if they're looking for a mortgage or a refinance. This could be something to the effect of body sculpting or, you know, weight loss, supplement, whatever. And if this, then do this. And then if that, then do something else, right? So we've given it the decision-making framework and the task up there. And then we've also given it the ability to do a couple things here. Get the availability, in which we don't really need anything right here, but I always highly suggest, especially I'm doing a voice one on this, right? I highly suggest you grab the name and the email so that conceptually the AI understands when I go get the times, something that I really need is their name and their email to book this appointment so that it goes to GoHighLevel and so that we're, you know, putting this appointment down properly with their name, right? And I would even probably do something to the effect of here, the user's verified full name. And verified just as a descriptor to say, make sure that like this is their name. Okay. And then we have book appointment, refinance calendar with the time, the ISO standard date and time zone offset that we've gotten from here, right, to book the appointment. And then we have this update contact one. Very simple, just goes to a GoHighLevel workflow trigger, that sends the first and last name to be updated. All right. And so I'm going to hold this off real quick, and then I'm going to add in here. The second step here is ask the user for their first and last name and use the tool update contact to update their information. Easy enough. Okay. And then 3, if the user is looking for a refinance, then we're going to check our availability with the tool that we gave it to check availability. All right. And then we're going to book the appointment with the tool that we've given it to book the appointment. So we're caught up to here. All the concepts are kind of in place. We haven't done anything crazy. We have 3 tools created. You don't have to do this update contact one. It's just a best practice. And then we have a simple prompt. This is literally the prompt I'm going to run with to test this, right? And now what we have to do is in our Innata and our Make, our Buildship, again, some of those are free, super easy to use. I prefer Buildship. Again, it's just one that I use a ton. Now we have to kind of host the calendar in those things to be able to call to, right? So I'm going to go over here to my Buildship, and then I'm going to create a new workflow. It's going to be my get availability refinance calendar. All right. I'm going to add a trigger. So this is going to be an API call. This is how we're doing this. We're doing this via API. Don't let it overwhelm you. It needs to be a post call. All right. And then I'll say availability refinance calendar. All right. And don't let this overwhelm you. I promise you, this may seem complex, and of course, it's like new systems, it's new ideas, it's custom tools, it's APIs. This is scary. Dude, trust me, I get it. But remember back to the concepts of just like simplify your mindset here. I know I even have a ton of problems sometimes of like overcomplicating some things. But remember, we're going to keep it super simple on this, right? And I'll add more concepts in this document you have here to go a little bit further in this. But I just want you to remember we need to do a couple things. We need to make a decision, we need to get availability, and we need to book. All right? And the things that we need are kind of already in place. We have the calendars, we have the assistant, we've checked that the times are good on the calendar, and then we have some sort of platform to host this calendar just to get it real quick. And I would say just call directly to the GoHighLevel API, but they require some additional headers and with a custom tool in the wrapper. It's not in there right now. So we're just going to have a little workaround. And, there's a couple things here, right? Like there's the prompt, which really is your instruction for AI decision making, right? Or like instruction on what the AI to do. We're just telling it here simply like, hey, look, ask them if they want a mortgage or a refinance and put whatever you want there. And then if they want this certain thing, then do this. And if they want something else, then do this, right? And then we have our tools where we've given them access to go do that thing. So that's how all these things tie together. Is your prompt is your instruction, for whatever we're doing, is here's how you do it. It's like an employee manual, an employee handbook, or a SOP, right? You're handing a new employee, like, here's how we do things around here. And then this would be like giving them access to your GoHighLevel calendar to say, here's where you do this thing that I've told you how to do. Here's where you do it, right? That's how all these things tie together. So we have our prompt, we have our tools, and then now we're building out the ability to get times. And I'm going to give you all this stuff in here. But we need to do one thing for this get availability is we need to now call to GoHighLevel. And I have this backend one that you can use for free times that you don't need access tokens for. And then you'll be able to call to that to get the times. Let me put this in here real quick and I'll show you. Okay, so we need to, now that the AI, because it has the wrapper, and if this is still a little confusing, there's a like a little crash course on custom tools. Take a look at that one. It's like 20 minutes. It'll help you understand a lot of this stuff and how it works conceptually. So the tool is going to make a call here, right? And it's looking for something. And so now we're going to go do something, which is we're going to make an API call. And this is going to be a get, right? And don't really worry about this stuff. You can just copy it as you see it. And the URL or the endpoint URL that we're going to use for this is going to be a backend lead connector URL, right? And let's see if this works because there's a couple parameters we can add in here. All right, so you see this link here. This is like the free way to get availability. It's like how these work. If you weren't familiar, this is how these calendars work. Is it takes this, is it goes and gets the free availability with some parameters, and then brings it back to the page so someone can book to your availability, right? And what I did there is I just took that ID for my refinance calendar. Again, just do one at a time. Then you can do the other ones later. I took the ID, which is just this little string right here, this numbers and letters at the back half of the permanent link. And I am just adding it in here where it says calendar ID is equal to what? This. All right. And this is going to be, if I remember correctly, application JSON. And then we're going to await because we have to get something back from this, which is our availability. And I believe we have extra parameters that we need on this, but I'm going to go ahead and just test it and make sure. Okay. So we have some extra parameters that we need in here, which is this. All right, so time zone, American New York, Sensley. I'll have all this in the doc where you can just copy and paste it. But there should be the additional things that we need. Let's make sure. Okay. So we're good, but we're not getting any availability back, which just means that something here, probably our start time and end date, is not like perfect. I may also set this look busy to false because like we don't need to look busy for conversational booking. Okay, so I'm gonna grab these start times real quick, and I'll even on the back half of this have an easier way to pull this, and we should be good to go. Give me 1 second here. Let me give you an example of why I like Buildship. Again, it's super reliable, it's super cheap. But if I need to create something custom, right? So like I'm getting the Unix timestamp, which is like the seconds it's been since we started counting Unix time, which is what GoHighLevel uses. This is why GoHighLevel is a complex API. So we'll say, given an API call, I want to get today's date and time plus 7 days in Unix time and return the Unix time. All right, because we're going to get today's like right now Unix time, and then we need our future Unix time, which is a week out, right? And you can make 14 days, whatever you want your calendar to book out to. All right, and so let's just make sure that lines up, 13, 15. Okay, perfect. So now we can reference these right here in this. Let me pull this back up over here. Let me get this. And I'm going to say our start time is going to be the current time in Unix today, right now. And then the end time is going to be in the future, right? And our time zone is going to be New York. Changing this to false again. I may just take this out, but we'll test it here in a second. All right. So let's test all this with my little scripts right there just to see what we get back. Actually, I need to return this. So once we've done all this work here, so getting the current time, getting the future time, we've gone to GoHighLevel. To go get that with those things that we've generated, we need to bring this back to the assistant, and this can be done. API call, data. So let's test this out and see where we need to fix this up. It looks like we're still just getting the trace ID. Let me check one thing here for you real quick. Okay, after a little triaging, this is the fun part about connecting with GoHighLevel, by the way. I love GoHighLevel so much, but there are some intricacies. The one intricacy is the Unix time has to be 13 character Unix time, all right? So if you're using Buildship or whatever you're using, if you're getting Unix time, it needs to be 13 character Unix time. And you can see I get all of my availability back for the next few days. All right. So we should be good on there. Enable look busy. All right, and then we'll return that data. Let's test it out. Perfect. There's our availability. That's what we'll be sending back to the AI assistant. So I'm going to go ahead and save that because we're done with this one. And so just the logic of this one, if you're building this in another platform, is when this is called, this workflow, this endpoint, whatever you want to call it, we need to get the current time in 13 character Unix, right? This can be done on most platforms, or like even this one, I'll show you the code, right? And then this one is 7 days out Unix time. This is filled in this URL, and then we're returning it back, right? Because the AI can understand return. So I'm going to copy this, and then this is going to be where we tell the AI, right, to go get this availability from. So get availability. We're going to go get our availability from the availability. And then we're going to just use these as ways to collect that information. All right. So that's good to go. And then we should be good. We'll add this back on here. Great. So now we can get availability. Now we can update the contact. The last step we need, at least for this one, is to book the appointment. Right? Super easy. So we're going to go back into our Buildship. So I'm going to put this in a folder here. So we have our get availability. Next, we need to book the appointment for refinance calendar. Whatever we ended up calling this one. There we go. Yep. Okay. I'm going to throw this in this folder too. Again, an API call, a post API call, and book appointment refinance. This is just the endpoint, make or whatever will give you this. All right, so I need to do something different now, and especially because we're sending data to this one, right? So we'll have some variables to play with. And what we'll have to do is when the AI sends the arguments here, we need to go book to a high-level calendar. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. Okay, I just did a bunch of testing just to make it, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible here. And so what I did was I went to API v1 for GoHighLevel, so you don't have to, pull an access token or get it from us or anything like that. You can just use your sub account's API key, making it a little bit easier. The only thing with that I can see is the type of calendar. I know at least I had a personal calendar on there. I had to switch it to an event. I don't know about round robin. We can try it, but all the steps up until this point are the same. I've tested event. You'll have to test round robin. And the parameters we had to come over here is the calendar. The selected time zone needs to match our time zone, or we got errors and the time zone needs to match the time zone for the field that we're booking in the time zone. I'm telling you, we get all this stuff all the time about booking, but it's not a fun thing. But this should work theoretically. So what I've done is I've come here and I've created the second endpoint, which is book appointment refinance calendar. Okay. I've posted to GoHighLevel's API v1 to book the appointment with my location, my sub accounts API key, so bearer API key. And then I've set it up where the calendar ID is the new calendar, the event calendar. The time zone is American New York, which is the sub account's time zone. The selected time slot is coming from the AI under body.args.time. All right. Email is body.args.email, and then phone is body.args.phone. And you're like, what the hell is that? All it is in the tool here, I added a couple things. So I have the time that we had before, the ISO standard with time zone offset, and I even added my time zone in here. I'll put this all in the doc. Added the email, which is the user's verified email address, and then phone, which is the user's current phone number. All right. All the other stuff stayed the same. Endpoint stayed the same. and then the description has stayed the same. So we have our update contact, our get availability, and our book appointment. I know we're running over on time. We're at like 30 minutes here, but I hope this is kind of helping explain it. Let's run a test, make sure this works, and then we'll get to the second calendar. So let's give this test AI a call here at the 470 number.
Hi, Jordan. Are you looking for a mortgage or to refinance your current home today?
I'm looking for a refinance of my current home.
Great. Before we proceed, could you please confirm your first and last name to ensure the information I have is correct?
Yep, it's Jordan with an E, Jorden, Williams.
Thanks for confirming your name, Jordan Williams. I'll update our records with this information.
All right, thank you.
I've booked your refinance appointment for November 6th at 11 a.m. ST. Looking forward to speaking with you then. I've successfully booked your refinance.
Okay, so at least we know the booking works. We just need to work on the prompting now. But we're at least like awesome. We were able to book. That's all that we care about right now. All right, so now we're going to duplicate this. I'm going to do the same steps twice. I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to do the same thing, and then we'll get the prompting and the times and everything on there well enough. Okay, so I literally just duplicated, so I had get availability. It's the same thing we walked through, getting name and email. Here's the endpoint. Here's a description. The book appointment from the original one. Here's a description. Here's the API, time, email, phone. I just duplicated this for mortgage. And then duplicated my workflows over here. And theoretically, you could just add it as an argument and swap them out, but I figured this may be an easier visualization of everything. And so now I think we have all of our stuff here. Our calendar ID should be changed. Let's look here. Great. And then let's do the same thing here. Okay. Okay. And we should be good and launched on all of these here now. So let's give it a test. And then what we'll do is we'll just copy this over. We'll actually make a change to this because the cadence, we wanted to discuss the availability first. And then once the user has picked a time, book the appointment using the tool. The user's selected appointment. Check your availability, discuss your availability with the user. Let's do that. And then I'll even add an important section down here. I'll say make sure to be concise in all of your responses. Make sure when giving the user a list of data to only give a few options to not overwhelm them. All right, and then for this, we can just copy this over. We'll just switch out the names, right? And we should be good to go. 35 minutes in. It's usually much faster, but I was making sure I'm explaining everything correctly. So conceptually right, make the decision on which calendar. Once it's made the decision, get the availability. From the availability, discuss it, and then book the appointment to that calendar. That's done via a tool. We're giving the AI access to do something. So we have book appointments for both calendars, get availability for both calendars, and then update the contact because this is a phone call. This is an inbound call. All right, that's how we're going to get it to do it. And so we just have it ask them for a mortgage, verify their information, and then book on the specific calendar for those things there. All right, and then just like an important section. Again, this is super test. I would probably have a response guideline and everything in here if this was prod, but it should be good to go. So we'll do a test here. Okay, let's test it out.
Hello, Jordan. Are you looking for a mortgage or to refinance your current home today?
I was looking for a mortgage.
Great. Before we proceed, could you please confirm your first and last name to ensure our records are accurate?
Yep, Jordan with an E, Jorden Williams.
Thanks for confirming your name, Jordan Williams. Let's check my availability for a mortgage appointment. Let me check my availability for a mortgage appointment. Here are some available times for a mortgage appointment. Today, November 6th, 11 a.m., 11:30 a.m., 12 p.m. tomorrow, November 7th, 8 a.m.
Wait, what did you have for today?
For today, November 6th, I have the following available times. 11 a.m., 11:30 a.m., 12 p.m. Which time would you like to book?
Let's do 11.
I booked your mortgage appointment for today at 11 a.m. Looking forward to speaking with you then. Your mortgage appointment is confirmed for today at 11 a.m.
Hey, one question. One question. So I see, okay, I do have one on my mortgage calendar. So I also own a home right now that I'd like to refinance. So can I get on the refinance schedule too?
Let me check my availability for a refinance appointment as well. Here are some available times for a refinance appointment today. November 6th, 11:30 a.m., 12 p.m., 12:30 p.m. Would you like to book one of these times?
Can we do 12:30?
I've booked your refinance appointment for today at 12:30 p.m. Looking forward to assisting you with your refinance.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, let's make sure that it booked to the proper calendar. So I did 12:30 for a refinance, perfect, and then I did 11 for a mortgage, perfect. And those are shown here. All right, that's multi-calendar booking. It's not as easy as I would hope it would be. I'd hope it'd be a native thing, but we're working on this update right now. But I hope this at least does one of two things. One, this gives you a solution to something you need right now. Or two, this gives you some inspiration for going out and building some awesome stuff for your clients. Because that's really what this is all about. I'll make full documentation on this just so that you can have all the nuances and everything with API v1 and the event calendars. Like I said, this is just a good workaround, and you can see that it works. And then on things like discussing times, that's more prompt, right? So that's really only comes down to your prompt. And so you can come here and let it know to discuss only a few times. I gave it very concise, appointment stuff, but like this is traditionally what a prompt looks like, right? Like we have, style guide rails, response guidelines, etc. So when it comes down to voice AI specifically, when you're worried about cadence and you're worried about the things that it's saying, that all kind of comes down to the prompt, which you don't need much. You just need clear, concise instructions on how to communicate with somebody, but it's your task-based framework on it. This is the tools involved, right? You can use N8N, you can use Buildship, you can use Make. Those are the parameters we need to send, and that's how you do it. So I hope that's helpful. I'll make a doc that you can look at below with all the nuances and everything in it, and then also some stuff that you can copy over. But I hope that that's helpful. Thank you so much.